This video guitar lesson is a tutorial of guitar chords for beginners. I will show you how to play the 3 most common guitar chords. I will also share tips and information that you will find very helpful as a beginner guitar player. Let's start with the G chord, also known as the G major chord. Here we go. Here's the easiest way to play the G chord, and you only have to use one finger. You just use your ring finger, and you just put it on the 3rd fret of the high E string, the thinnest string, and then you just play the G and the B string open. So all together like this. So you don't want to play these strings. You're only using the thinnest 3 strings. So you can rest your palm right here, and that'll help you to mute these thicker strings. So that's called an easy G chord. It's a great start, but practice this G chord as well. Start by putting your ring finger, your 3rd finger, on the 3rd fret of the low E string. Then put your 2nd finger, your middle finger, on the 2nd fret of the A string. Then the next string, the D string, is going to ring open, so you don't use your fingers there. Same thing with the G string. And same thing with the B string. Then probably the most challenging part for a beginner, put your pinky, your little finger, on the 3rd fret of the high E string, the thinnest string. So all together like this. When learning and practicing any chord, play each string one at a time so that you can hear each note ring out and make sure that they're all working. Because sometimes if you play it all together, you won't hear if there's any mistakes. So do one string at a time like this. See, I can hear all 6 strings. If there was a mistake, let's say the pinky, let's say I wasn't pressing hard enough, I could hear it when I get there. But if I play them all together, it's harder to tell. And my thumb, you may not be able to see, but it's straight up in the air. It's like this behind the neck. It's like that, so it's not sideways, that direction. These 3 fingers that I'm using, they're very curved like that, so they're not straight. And my fingernails are very short. If you're having a hard time, here's some solutions. You can use your 2nd finger up here, your middle finger on the 3rd fret of the low E string, your 1st finger on the 2nd fret of the A string, and then your ring finger down here on the 3rd fret of the high E string. So this is the same notes, just using different fingers. Here's another tip. Don't hold the chord in place for like 10 minutes. Just do it for a few seconds. Just play the chord. Then take your hand away and then come back to the chord. Take your hand away and come back. Also switch to other chords that you're going to learn or that you already know, and then come back to the G chord, and this will help you get the muscle memory. So that's a good exercise to do with any chord that you're learning. Now let's go to the C chord, or the C major chord. So in this chord, you do not play the low E string at all. You start by putting your ring finger on the 3rd fret of the A string. Then you put your middle finger, your 2nd finger, on the 2nd fret of the D string. You play the G string open. Then you put your 1st finger on the first fret of the B string. You can stop there, but it sounds really good if you let the high E string ring open. So all together. So it may look like I'm using my pinky here, but I'm actually not. It's just comfortable for it to be there like that. Another thing you'll notice is my fingers are not perfectly straight or parallel with the frets, but they're at an angle like this. And my fingers, again, are very curved like that, especially my first finger. You won't be able to let the high E string ring out open if you don't get a good curve with your first finger, because what will happen is this part of your finger will touch the high E string and muffle it if you have the finger kind of straight. So you got to get a curve there. So I'll just demonstrate there. There it is, too straight, and there's the curve. So it's not just my finger that's curved or moving upward, but it's my wrist. You see that small little motion in my wrist there? And my thumb is not perfectly straight. It's kind of at an angle behind the neck like that. But just do whatever's comfortable for you as long as you're able to play all the notes in the chord. Your thumb doesn't have to be exactly like mine. But I just want to give you the general idea. Sometimes I like to bring the thumb up and come up over and actually muffle the low E string. I do that if I'm really playing really big with this arm. Here's without the thumb. If the C chord is very difficult, there's also an easy C chord, and this is how you do it. So all you have to do is put your first finger on the first fret of the B string. And you definitely have to make sure it's curved. I'll just get these other fingers out of the way. And that your wrist is high enough so that the high E string can ring out. I find it more comfortable to put my fingers in the air like that. And again, my finger is at an angle here. It's not perfectly straight. It's angled like that. And it may look like my finger is on the fret here, but it's not. It's just as close as possible. I can touch it a little bit, but I don't want to be on the fret because then it'll sound like that. And again, you do not play the lowest 3 strings. So you can put your palm, play like this. And now for the D chord, or the D major chord. So for this chord, you do not play the low E string or the A string. You start on the D string open. Then you put your first finger, your index finger, on the 2nd fret of the G string. Then put your ring finger, your 3rd finger, on the 3rd fret of the B string. Then put your 2nd finger, your middle finger, on the 2nd fret of the high E string. So all together. One of the challenges of this chord is to not play the low E string and the A string. So you can rest your palm here, again, to mute them. And you can play like this. However, if you want to really use your arm and do some strumming, what you can do is bring your thumb up over here and muffle those strings like that if you can. So practice these 3 chords back and forth, mix them up, play them over and over and over again. take your time. Don't sacrifice the technique to get to the chord faster. Get the technique perfect. Take your time, and you'll get faster as time goes on. And when you do get faster and you're playing songs, what you can do is play some open strings in between the chords. So here it is at full speed, and then I'll do it slower. So you may have not noticed, but in between the chord changes, I just played this. So here it is slowed down.